Lower it, he says, lower it. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the May 17th meeting of the Rotary Club of Brentwood. My name is Drew Rogers, and I have the privilege of serving as the president of this distinguished club. We're so glad to have all of you here, and thank you to Jane Covington, past President Jane Covington, for covering for me last week. I'm energized to be back with you, and we bring back an oldie but goodie, a classification talk program where you get to hear from two of our newer members to hear more about what they do in their lives. Before I invite Bert Bradford to deliver the invocation and Sana Robinson to lead the pledge and four-way test, I just want to say a special welcome to Harold Fogelberg for rejoining us. We've missed you, and we're glad you're back, Fogie. Bert, please join me at the podium.
Would you pray with me, please? Father God, we're thankful for this day you've given us and the liquid sunshine, and we're so thankful for our club and the district and all the works you allow us to do with our hands. Lord, especially today, want to be thankful for all the new members you brought us in the club and just how it's helped energize us and just, it's just great. Lord, we want to thank you for this meal we've received today. And we ask for your blessings on the program today and as we go out about the Rotary way. For in your son's name we pray. Amen.
Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. First,
Is it the truth?
second,
Is it fair law?
third,
Will
and fourth.
Thank you, Bert, and thank you, Sana. We do have some guests today, and we have a special visiting Rotarian that many of us will recognize. Past District Governor Eddie Allred, who has an announcement to make later. But Eddie, welcome.
Okay, we've got quite a few people in the room today that are, aside from Eddie, he is a Rotarian, that are in the membership process, and we are super excited about it. So, Drew, where's Drew? Drew, he's almost there at orientation scheduled, I think. So we're getting close. Sandra, there she is. Sandra Lee and Peggy. Oh, there you are. Sorry, I should stand here every week and do this. And then we're going to be inducting Chris today over at the front table. So thank you guys. If members, please go and try to get to know these folks now, you know, the next couple of weeks and as they become members and make them feel welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you to our distinguished guests and those that will soon be members of our club. We're glad you're here and grateful for your interest. Before I get to the business of inducting Chris Dooney as our newest member of the club, I do want to make a quick announcement about community grant applications because they are due today. Right before I came up here, Tom Carr mentioned to me that there may be an issue with Steve Huff's email address. So if you have not received a confirmation that your application has been received, then consider it has not been, that you should assume that it hasn't been received. So I would work out something with Steve. He's here. He's right there. That might be his IT department calling him to fix his computer. But work it out. If you've submitted one and you have not received a confirmation of receipt from Steve, see Steve. Okay, because we do want to get those community grant applications in, and they are due today. Tom, did I do that right? Very good. Wonderful. So Chris, if you would join me at the podium. It's my privilege to get to introduce our newest member of the club, Chris Dooney. Chris Dooney is a friend of mine that we've known each other through a faith-based networking organization called the Catholic Business League. And I've talked to him about coming out to Rotary. He has a servant's heart. And that's why he knows the brand of Rotary. So he had some interest in learning more about it. It did take us a while to convince him that it was time for him to become a member, but I do want to give you a brief bio on Chris and would encourage you to get to know him as we induct him today. Chris Dooney is the Vice President of Finance and Development at Family First Adolescent Services. This is a new position within the last month, I believe. In this role, Mr. Dooney spearheads the financial strategy and development initiatives for the organization. With a focus on enhancing the company's growth trajectory, he oversees all aspects of finance, including strategic planning, financial analysis, and investment decisions. Before that, Mr. Dooney served as the Senior Director of Corporate Development at Universal Health Services, where he played a pivotal role in that company's de novo strategy, joint ventures, and acquisitions across UHS's acute behavioral health and ambulatory divisions. His expertise in evaluating assets for acquisition and market entry through de novo development contributed significantly to the organization's expansion efforts. Prior to his tenure at UHS, Mr. Dooney held the position of Vice President of Finance at Centerpoint Behavioral Health System, where he managed the financial operations of a regional provider of behavioral health inpatient and outpatient services. With over 15 years of experience in corporate finance and strategy, he has held roles at Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, KPMG, and LifePoint Health. Mr. Dooney holds an MBA from Vanderbilt University and a BBA from the University of Georgia. We'll forgive you for that. He is a licensed CPA and a fellow in the American College of Healthcare Executives, bringing a wealth of expertise and leadership to his role at Family First Adolescent Services. He also has a 2-year-old daughter that is precious and is a member of Holy Family Catholic Church here in Brentwood. So please join me in welcoming Chris Dooney as our newest member. Welcome, Chris. We are glad that you're here and know that you will make significant contributions as a member of our club. And so we are clearly lucky to have you. A few announcements, and I do have some guests that will make announcements. For those of you that don't know, Jordan Nielsen is not here today, and that's because her name will change tomorrow. She's getting married, and I think we had a board meeting and we asked the question, when was the last time one of our members got married for the first time while they were a member? And nobody could remember, nobody knew. So we're very excited about Jordan Nielsen getting married for the first time. And we do have something to give. The club has sent a gift, and we do have a card. And so if you're interested in signing the card, Jennifer Ruane, do you have the card? I have the card. So if you're interested in signing the card, please come to the front at the end of the meeting and sign the card. Also, in case you weren't aware, the Martin Center's got something going on. This is the open house week for the 50 Forward Martin Center, and today is the art show day. We have been encouraged to go and browse the art. So after the meeting, if you have a few minutes, go check out what's out there and buy something if you feel so inclined. I know that they would appreciate it, and they're very excited to have us here, and they're very excited to showcase their art. So please do that. We do have a couple more announcements. I'm going to go to Larry Kane first, who has asked for a couple of minutes for an update on the golf tournament. Larry.
How about the hat? Huh? Just ask. Yeah. It took me 3 weeks to get it, but other than that, it's a good reminder. A couple of things to remind people of. I mentioned a few weeks ago that we had 39 outstanding sponsors, major sponsors from last year that have not in. I'm proud to announce this week we have 37. That's 2 sponsors in 2 weeks. So anyway, thank you, Marie Swinford, for bringing in a sponsor, Michael Kaplan for bringing in a sponsor, and Sheila Cleveland for bringing a sponsor in the last week. You guys did great. Now, what's hanging out there that we all should know about is last year we had 87 whole sponsors. That's our bottom line sponsor at $350. We had 87. Right now we got 4. So those come in late, and I understand that, but just keep those numbers in mind. We're way short right now. We got 4 months, so we're in good shape, but we need to get those in before the other tournaments go out there and grab our sponsors. So if you've got some of those 37 sponsors that are hanging out there, please go get them. We're not meeting next week, and the next week after that, I'm not going to be here. So 3 weeks from now, we're going to repeat this performance. And I think I'm going to bring up the list of the ones that are outstanding so we can talk about those. So I might need a few more minutes if those 37 are still out there. Chris, this is an idea somebody had gave me the other day. If Chris or the other new members or potential new members want to know more about how does this work with your golf tournament, I'll be more than glad to sit down and we can do that. So maybe if that's something you'd want to do in 3 weeks, maybe after the meeting, we can take 10 minutes and sit down and talk about how we get our sponsors and where we get them and that kind of thing. Just as a reminder, we have June the 21st, we're going to give out, I don't know how many yet, but the grants you've been talking about, thousands of dollars will go out of here on June 21st. And then this year we have identified 5 major grants. In the past 6 years, we've only done 3. And this year the BRCCF decided to do 5 because we had so many people we want to talk to. So these are the 5 that you've all seen already, our major grants for this year. So when you think about the golf tournament, there's $50,000 right there we got to give out. And there's no telling how many thousands that come out this June 21st meeting that we'll have where we'll identify our smaller grants. And that's in addition to our $35,000 in scholarships that we give out. So if you wonder why we have a golf tournament, that's it. So if you have any questions, let me know. Chris, I'll get you and the other new members email or something out and see if y'all want to get together and talk about 10 minutes. Like I said, just talk about how it all works. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry. Next, I'd like to call past District Governor Eddie Allred to the podium because he has a special presentation that he would like to share with us this afternoon. Eddie.
I'd like to ask Jeff Brown if he would join me at the podium. Any of you ever play ball while you were in school? Anybody play ball? Baseball, football, whatever? I played baseball. I was too little to play football. I was a second baseman. And that's because that's where you put the shortest kid on the team, on second base. I could catch a ground ball because I didn't have to bend over. I just dropped my glove down and I was able to catch it. But in playing ball, how many of you ever dropped the ball? Everybody. I dropped the ball many times. Well, someone dropped the ball on Jeff. And I'm going to blame Huffman for that, simply because he's not here. And Dick, you don't have to tell him I threw him under the bus, okay? Several months ago, Jeff committed to Rotary International by joining the Paul Harris Society. Paul Harris Society members pledge to make a $1,000 donation annually to the Rotary Foundation. And in recognition of your commitment to the Rotary Foundation, I'd like to present you with a chevron that can be worn with your Paul Harris Fellow pin. And thank you on behalf of Rotary International and District 6760 for your commitment.
Thank you very much, Eddie.
Thank you.
Just a brief word for those of you who don't know what the Paul Harris Society is. It is a way to commit to a long-term giving program to Rotary. Now, Paul Harris Fellows begin that process, but when you become Paul Harris Society, it means you have committed to, number one of the most efficient charities you can, but 2, it supports the things that we are all that are near and dear to our hearts. So it's a great pleasure to be a member of this society.
Thank you, Eddie. I'd like to say one other thing about it. It amounts to $2.74 a day. Now, when I was district governor, I made a comment at this club and every other club I spoke at. And I said, I challenge you to go out and buy a soft drink and a candy bar for less than $2.74. I've changed that. Because now you can't hardly buy a soft drink or a cup of coffee for $2.74. And I promise you this would do more good than that. And by the way, I do have some applications with me today if anyone wants to join Jeff in becoming a member of the Paul Harris Society.
Jeff, you did not play second base, evidently. I got to get this microphone back up. I do have one more announcement before we get to our program, but I do want to go to Stephen Hammers, who's going to administer Happy Bucks today. I sent an email out on Thursday night about a young woman in Columbia that had been affected by the recent storms, and we were going to be collecting Happy Bucks today in her honor. Her name was Bree Lovett. We are not actually going to have a special collection of Happy Bucks because after consulting with Richard Dickerson, he felt like we could go in a different direction. I reserve the right to come back to Happy Bucks and a special collection at some point in the future. But I just wanted to let you know that that was not something that we were doing today, but we are still, if we are happy, we're going to give money, and I'm happy because we've got a great day and we've got Harold Fogelberg back. So yes, happy bucks. Stephen Hammers.
I've got a happy buck that I had to borrow from Norris, so thank you very much. This Thursday, I leave for Singapore for the Rotary International Convention. So I'm really excited. Every past president that has gone, they've come back with a significant amount of knowledge and understanding about Rotary International. So, and that's it. Happy buck, anybody?
I'm happy because we have sent the final report into the district on our matching grant that we had. The club put in $12,500. The district gave us $12,500. We had $25,000 for a prosthetic leg project in Honduras. We have now helped about 30 people. Each individual needed 1 or 2 legs. They now have those legs. It's a life-changing event, and down the road, we'll be telling you more about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Greg. Good news, Tom.
I'm just ecstatic because sitting next to me is the next treasurer of the Brentwood Rotary Club Charitable Foundation, Maurice Winford, and she is going to do a great job.
Magnificent.
She's really important person, by the way.
Congratulations, Marie.
Anybody, buddy? Oh, no, I missed somebody.
I got to PayPal you. Okay. So we are T-minus 1 week to Dr. Wang's movie. I've known Dr. Wang for a long time, as many of us have. He's been working on this movie for over 10 years. It is a big, it's been so interesting to walk through him with this. It is a big deal to do a movie. Holy cow. Don't do it. It's not worth it. It's crazy. But he's super excited about it. Many of us have already seen it, but we have an opportunity to go see it in the theater, and it's been recut and changed. So if you've already seen it, it's gonna be a little different. So 1 week from tonight, it's open in theaters across the country. I went ahead and bought 100 tickets to give away. I have fewer than that now, so I've given away a lot of them, but come to me if you want a free ticket. I'd love for you to attend. I'm going to the sort of official, red carpet thing. And I've been offered the opportunity to take 5 super fans. So if you are a super fan of Dr. Wang, come to the 6 o'clock at the Thoroughbred movie. That's the one he's going to. And there'll be a little red carpet thing at 5 o'clock. Everybody can come to the red carpet thing at 5 o'clock if you like, but the 6 o'clock show, and he rented out a theater. So if you love Dr. Wang and you've known him a long time, looking for 5 people who really want to go. If you just want to see the movie and you're happy to go to any showing, I got not quite 100 tickets, but I got some tickets to give away. So come see me. Thank you very much. And since the movie is next week, this is the last time you'll have to hear this. Oh wait, no, next week you'll have to hear it.
Nope, we're not gonna be here. You'll be yelling into a well. Like a
Great.
Swiftie for Dr. Wang.
Drew, we used to have a record of how many of our members were Paul Harris fellows. We are 100%. Sometime in the past, you know where we are now.
100%. I don't. I'll get back to you on that.
I just thank the club for the last 2 months of, so some of you may be aware, I had a stroke, and it's been a challenging 2 months. This is my first time back to Rotary. I've got a lot of work to do. It is affecting my speech. So I'm just kind of giving you a heads up, if you will. But I really appreciate particularly the emails that many of you have sent, and I'm hanging in there. Thank you.
We're glad you're here.
Glad to have you back.
First dollars, congratulations, Jordan. It's quite an accomplishment. I hope you make it stick for more than for just one. And second, my border collie Lexi has just passed her certification as a therapy dog. And
Nice.
one of the things that we will be doing is engaging in a program called Reading Pause, where we go to schools and the kids get to read to the dog. And apparently it's a really good program for getting kids motivated to read. So really happy about that.
Very good.
Awesome. Jim?
Singapore, we went 99, 2000 and had a flat.
We're in Singapore. Oh, I could, wow, awesome.
That was a very nice way of you saying that
Rod?
you're glad he's going to Singapore.
I leave a week from tomorrow for Kenya. Going with some other folks from the church, and so we would appreciate your prayers and thoughts when we're gone. So thank you.
Nice. Very nice. Very
Awesome.
cool.
Anybody else?
Is that it?
Nobody happy over here but two? We'll go back to the happy side.
I guess it would have been easier if I'd have started out this way, but actually my son is going to be heading to Kenya on Tuesday because he and his mom, my current ex-wife, are going there so he can see his family. So I appreciate you keeping him in your prayers, but it's going to be good for him to be able to reconnect with that side of him as well. So
Very good.
Make the trip back over here worthwhile. I'm new guy, Pat Ryan. We had a family event that I'm pretty happy about. My son, after 2 years of 8 surgeries, it started out 2 months in the ICU at Vanderbilt. He just came back from the Cleveland Clinic where he saw a supposedly super specialist. So we'll see if we can afford a number 9. So we're pretty happy after a month in Cleveland, see the specialist up there having surgery. And we think he's on the mend. Thanks.
Wonderful. That's great news, Pat.
Anybody else? Anybody else?
Awesome.
Alrighty.
Thank you very much, Stephen. We essentially have 2 programs today. Well, actually 3 programs because we have 2 of our newer members that are coming that will join me at the podium to give a classification talk. And I'm very excited to hear from them. But when you walked in, you may have noticed that there was a little bit of a change in the lineup of how we're oriented at the check-in desk. And the reason for that is what we're about to get into. It's really to help. We've had such great guest activity and new members coming in. We want to create as welcoming of an environment as we possibly can for those that are coming to visit. And so I would like to ask Laura Troop to come to the podium to talk a little bit about some of the things that we're doing with new members and some of our guest entries so that you know what is happening here. And then we will get to Colleen and Bob Thompson. Laura.
Well, I know it was quite a bottleneck up there today. It won't be like that next week because we won't have all the art, or not next week, but the next time. We will be oriented separate for members and visiting guests. Okay. That's just to help alleviate some of the stress and pressure of getting people checked in and also having them fill out forms. We're just going to keep it simple and apart so that we can be really intentional with guests who are here for the first time. Our visiting Rotarians will still check in as if they're a member. But we just need your help as we get really intentional over the summer, right? You're all going to be really intentional at bringing guests over the summer to some of our programming and help getting people engaged, helping them feel welcome. In addition to that, once a guest comes, if they're a first-time guest, sometimes guests come and we don't know they're coming, which is absolutely fine. Sometimes we do know they're coming, but regardless of whether we know they're coming or not, we want someone to be with them during lunch so that they can introduce them to people, maybe tell their Rotary why. Why are you part of this club? Why do you feel engaged and why did you want to be a member? And walk them through lunch, let them have someone to sit with. But it's about being good hosts. It's about being hospitable and making others feel like they could see themselves here. We've had a lot of new members over the last few months, and I think that's absolutely fantastic. So the process is in essentially 3 parts. So this is just one of the 3 parts, which is getting people in the door. So when they come in the door, making them feel welcome. Of course, once they get to that point, are we talking about the next step? So when they get to the process of membership, so when a guest comes and says, hey, I do want to be a member, we're following up with them after a visit. They're getting an email from someone in the club, or they're getting hopefully a handwritten note. We're working on beefing that up with our committee so that everyone gets a personal touch. And they're getting information so that they can come back and say, hey, yes, I am interested, and I'm going to provide my information to you. Because at that point, we are proposing them to be members. They're not applying to be a member. So you as the member, if there's someone that you'd like to propose for membership, you fill out a form, but you need information for that form. So essentially, if someone says they're interested, we're gathering that information for you. So if they say, hey, I'm interested and I know Tom, then I will send that information to Tom so that he can fill out the proposal form and send it in. Once that proposal form comes in, I pass it off to the secretary. So now, let me pass it to Jen. Okay, Jennifer is the next piece of the puzzle, and she will manage the process from application to being inducted. I'm not even gonna try that. Not even gonna mess with it. Okay, thanks. Okay, so after I get the proposal, just to make sure that y'all understand the process, because it takes time, I send it, I have to print it, I sign it, I send it immediately to Susie. She is the chair of the classifications committee. She calls the new proposed member, talks to them about what they do to try to go to her committee about what classification they should be on this lovely badge. Once that is done, and that usually takes a week to 10 days, because I think she's doing a lot of her meetings virtually to help the process go through. Once that happens, then she sends it back to me and I send it to the board. And we either call a special meeting or we do it at the next board meeting, depending on timing. And then we talk about it at the board. And then we approve, if we want to move forward, we approve them to go to reflection. That's that newsletter that Drew sends out every week that we're supposed to read. I'm joking. In that letter, there is a portion in there that Donna puts together that puts the new proposed member applicant. It's not application, it's a proposal, but puts them into reflection so that way we all see who it is. If there's any dirt on them, we want to know. We want to know right then. That has never happened, but that is just to ward off. And that is really just to make sure if there's anything that we want to know, we get ahead of it. After that, after the 2 weeks are done and I keep notes of it, I immediately, like that comes out on Wednesday, on Thursday morning, I'm sending we would like you to join the Rotary Club. So now they are getting an official, please join our club. So they've gone from a proposal to now we'd like you to be a part of our group. And it's a nice drafted letter that we send. We ask them to accept it. So once they accept, and these folks in the room have accepted this, which is great. Once they accept that, I send it to Betsy. She's our head of our orientations committee. And then she schedules orientation with 2 of the past presidents. You guys all still with me? Because I'm almost done. After the orientation happens, which Betsy is trying to do that here at a meeting, before a meeting, or however you guys want to do that, but Betsy works on that. Then we give them 1 week. That is a board decision to give 1 week between orientation to induction. That way, if they're a little hesitant about any of the stuff that they've talked about in orientation, because it is a commitment that we're asking people to make, they have a week to ask more questions and get more, wrap their minds around the process. And then we schedule orientation. If it's not a week later, it's whenever they're joining us again. And then we orientate them. And then it goes on to what we do with them after they're a member.
So after the new members inducted, it comes to the retention committee. I nominated myself as chair of that this year. Thank you. And so I've put together 2 programs to try to integrate new members in our club. The first one's the mentorship program. I've reached out to many of the more experienced members to take on a new member, to befriend them, to help them get integrated in the club, to answer any questions, to make sure they feel welcome. Here's just some general guidelines that once I pair you up with once you agree to be a mentor and then I pair you up, I send you the document of ideas and things and that, I think we take for granted because we know a lot about Rotary. For example, I had lunch with Colleen about 3 weeks ago and I gave her a copy of something. She didn't know there was a Rotary International website. And she's been a member since September. So this document lays out just a lot of reminders. So you're going to want to share some knowledge with them, help a new member get involved, be a good resource when they have questions so they can pick up the phone and call, have somebody to call. Help them get engaged in club activities and club service. We're currently trying to have more club service opportunities. And so there's a lot going on in that area as well. So look for that coming up. And we're also starting fireside chats again. Many of you know that they were done. The first one is going to be, Michael has agreed to host it. We're so grateful. We're going to back up and probably do the last year of new members. And so that information will be coming out to new members soon. So on the new member side, I've put together the red badge program. Many of you know that new members in most Rotary clubs wear a red badge just so you can identify them as a new member. I haven't worked out the kinks in the red badge yet, but we've got them. So new members, you'll eventually get one. The document is laid out so that you're supposed to sign off certain topics and subjects. There's no pass or fail about it. You're a member once you're inducted, but it's just a guideline and a highway to make sure all the different parts of Rotary are addressed and put out there for your knowledge. So after you're inducted, about a week, within the week, you'll get an email from me introducing you and your mentor. And then I step out of the way. And the theory is that the program should probably take 4 to 6 weeks. And after you finish the program, you get your permanent badge. So you don't have to wear a red badge anymore. And you get to give your classification talk. So it's a lot of awards at the end. And hopefully after that time period, our new member is up and running and integrated into the club and an active long-term member. That's the process.
Wonderful. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Jennifer. And thank you, Jennifer, for that overview. I'm sure if you have questions, you may want to ask Laura, Jennifer, but that's incredible activity and a good way to get our newest members looped into the club and to stick. And she mentioned classification talks because that's one of the outcomes of the Red Badge program once that's finished. And so that's what we're going to do here today. We do have 2 of our newer members, both of which one was not able to be a part of the program today, but we do have 2 incredibly talented, gifted members that are going to come and talk about their experiences outside of them as a Rotarian. Both of them joined us in September of last year. So they're new members within the last 12 months, but still relatively new. And so I'm going to ask Colleen Atwood to join me at the podium to deliver her classification talk. So please welcome Colleen Atwood.
Down it goes. Thank you. Well, I was going to say good morning, but I guess it's good afternoon now, right? Well, Jennifer suggested that this would be a good opportunity to prepare and present my classification talk this week. And I said I would be more than happy to do that if you could tell me what I needed to speak about, because I didn't really know what a classification conversation was. She replied that the purpose was that I needed to introduce myself, to describe maybe my family and my career history, maybe talk about my hobbies and interests and why I joined or wanted to be a Rotarian. So, I said, and she said, the last thing she said was, and you have 5 minutes. And I was like, 5 minutes. I said, the first thing I thought was, how am I going to tell 6 decades of a story in 5 minutes? So the first thing I did was I thought, well, I'm going to go to the internet and see if I can figure out what this is supposed to be. So I actually found somebody who did a rap, like a, and had the thing going on in the background. So no worries, I'm not going to sing or dance, not at all. So anyway, the options seem endless, but I'm going to keep it simple. So here are the cliff notes of my story. So currently my husband, Kevin Atwood, he's also an architect, and he's also a plans examiner for the city of Nashville. We live in Oak Hill. We've lived there since 1992. We have a little rancher and we're trying to decide what to do with it. So everybody around us has built these 5,000 square foot crazy houses, and that seems a little big since we're empty nesters now. So the beginning of my story is I was actually born in Rapid City, South Dakota. My dad was in the Air Force. This was in like 1955, so that's quite a while ago. Sounds like a long time ago anyway, huh? But my big claim to fame there was I went to Mount Rushmore when I was 9 days old. So I don't think many people can say that. I haven't been back, but I really would like to go someday. But in 1955, I thought this was interesting. The year was highlighted by Americans were buying houses in the suburbs. They started moving out of downtowns. And they were busy purchasing cars and televisions and refrigerators. Unemployment averaged 4.2%. Inflation was minus 0.37%. Don't we wish we had that today? And the average household income, anybody want to guess? $4,130. The average cost of a new home was $10,950. And the average cost of a new car was $1,900. A gallon of gas, 23 cents. Fast food and TV dinners were all the rage, and Coca-Cola was started to be sold in cans. Rocking around the clock with Elvis and playing the card game of Canasta was popular. Reading Lolita and watching the $64,000 Question and Search for Tomorrow also became very popular. This I thought was very interesting as Rotarians. The polio vaccine was developed and tested by Jonas Salk and was given full approval by the U.S. Food and Drug Department. And soon after, the nationwide inoculation began. I thought that was kind of good news. The third item, and this will come up a little later, is Disneyland opened in Anaheim, California. History tells us that the $17 million theme park was built on 160 acres of a former orange grove and soon brought staggering profits. And the last thing that I thought was interesting was Ray Kroc opened the first McDonald's fast food restaurant in Illinois. And on opening days, hamburgers were 15 cents and French fries were 10 cents. I just thought that was all kind of fun. So anyway, my dad was serving in the Air Force, and my mom said she spent a lot of time in the Officers Club finding out what my dad was up to, because my dad was in the Strategic Air Command and sworn to secrecy. And he was a tried and true Eagle Scout, so he would never tell her anything, but she always found out anyway. So I'm telling you that because you kind of know where, you know, I kind of come from a really honest dad and a really sneaky mom, kind of. So we moved back to Ohio when I was 3 after a couple more Air Force base stints in Colorado and Massachusetts. But shortly after the move, and this is for all the sports guys in the room, Ohio State was slated to play in Oregon in the Rose Bowl. As luck would have it, one of my dad's best buddies from the Air Force was from Pasadena, California. So guess what? We all got to go out to Pasadena. They took me along, and what I believe my very first memory of life was that I remember riding Dumbo at Disneyland, because Disneyland had just opened, like I said earlier. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Of course, I wasn't invited to the Rose Bowl parade, nor was I invited to the game. But for everyone who wants to know, the results were Ohio State 10, Oregon 7. So it was a good trip, all in all. So back to life in St. Paris, Ohio. The village of St. Paris, Ohio, population 1,500 on a good year, was located in the middle of farmland in the middle of Ohio, not near really any big cities or anything like that. It was complete with a Memorial Day and a 4th of July parade where we would all decorate our bikes and ride, you know, all that kind of stuff as fire trucks came out. We had a town picnic, 3 stoplights, a little park, a grocery store, a booming downtown that consisted of one block of stores on both sides of the street, and lots of bike riding and playing outside with the other neighborhood kids until dark and mom called dinner time. So my parents acquired the family business, Ward's Greenhouses. It was a wholesale florist, grower, and a retail florist. So that was a lot of work. We didn't really have many holidays. I mean, well, we had holidays, but they were never on the holiday. So we ended up, like, maybe sometimes we would, like, in August was the time of the year when there were the fewest holidays, and seemed like weddings were kind of over at that point. And for some reason, people didn't die very much in August. So that seemed to be the month we could all get away. So we would always go up to Michigan. My dad, as I was saying, was that Eagle Scout. Well, he would always, there were a bunch of, there was 5 cabins where we always went. There were 5 families from different parts of the country. And I kind of feel like that was my interaction with people from other places, because, like I said, we lived in the middle of nowhere. But my dad would always come up with some project, like we either build a fish cleaning station, or we would re-roof the screen house, or we would have he would teach us about maybe doing a sale, you know, like being some, like maybe we got and collect driftwood and Petoskey stones, and we'd have everybody come in, all the adults would come in and we'd run a sale. So we had a little auction. So we're always trying to do things like that. My parents did have added two more girls to the family. My sisters are 5 and 7 years younger than I am. So being in a house full of girls, it was, even the cat was a girl. So my dad was not very happy. He wasn't surrounded by many of his same group of guys. So anyway, it was a great place to grow up. It was just like Mayberry. But the other thing I was going to say that I thought was really interesting too is we had a rotary phone. I thought rotary phone was kind of fun. It was ice blue. And of course it was complete that, we were on a party line. So everybody in the town, the great thing about growing up in a small town is everybody knows you. But the bad thing is everybody knows you and everybody knows everything you do. So that was the deal with that. But I was also fortunate to have a great, all my grandparents, all sets, and most of my great-grandparents growing up during my youth. And they spoiled me rotten, and I enjoyed everything I learned from them and their wisdom, because after all, they were the ones that grew up through the Depression. So I appreciated their ideas and their knowledge and things that they taught us. There was no school choice back then in St. Paris. All the local kids were enrolled in the county school. There were 3 feeder grade schools, 1 junior high and 1 high school, and that was it. You had no other choices. We were great in sports because all the boys were always working on the farm chores, that they, were baling hay and doing all those things. And that was before weightlifting was cool. So we won a lot of state championships. And I don't know if any wrestlers here, but Graham High School is where I went, and they were well known for their wrestling program. And people came from all over the country to go to the camps that they had in the summers. So I actually played basketball on the girls' team, but we played 3-on-3. That was a long time ago. So anyway, that was so much for my sports. I always thought I was going to be a phys ed teacher until I didn't want to be a phys ed teacher my senior year. That's a long story, and I'll share that with you sometime if anybody's interested. But I was like, at my senior year, and I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? And my math teacher said, you are good at art and you're really good at math and science. Those are your strong suits. You should try engineering or architecture. And I was like, I don't know anything about either of those things. So I went to, I was accepted to Miami of Ohio, not the Florida one, the Ohio one. And I went down there and visited the architecture school and the engineering school. And I went in the engineering school, and sorry for all the engineers here, but they were all they all had little pocket protectors, and wasn't good. It wasn't a good look. And then I went over to the architecture department, and all those guys had Italian shoes, leather shoes, and they had cool glasses and all this stuff. And I'm like, I think I can make this work. So that's how I ended up in architecture. That's not a very, I really had no idea that's what I was going to do. But anyway, I ended up going to architecture school. And as Michael, I'm sure you would agree, it's a brutal, brutal course. It's like they weed you out. We started out with 90 people and we graduated 30, and I was the only female. So that says something about it. It's very different now because today it's like a 50-50. I mean, there's at least half of, it's very inclusive at this point now. So I decided early on that, I did decide though that I wanted to definitely get the full college experience. So I just tried to manage my time as best I could, and I got by on very little sleep. I was honored to represent the architecture department and serve on the board of College of Creative Arts at Miami. And I just finished my second 3-year term last spring. And that was very interesting. It's very, it's a whole nother world inside of a college and how they finance things and their endowments and all those things. So it was a good learning experience. I'm glad I was able to do that. So fast forward my life in Nashville. So I moved to Nashville following college graduation and marriage, and I began a career with Edwards and Hotchkiss Architects. And it was there I started learning about commercial hospitality design, and then also a small taste of residential design. The clients I worked with included, you may recognize some of these from the past, Shoney's, Captain D's, the Winters Corporation, O'Charlie's, Cracker Barrel, Ireland's, were to name a few. There were several others, but those were kind of the main ones that we worked with. I also worked with Randy Davidson, who was the president of Central South Music Sales. My early project with his company was actually was compromised of doing tenant build outs for his retail record shop called the Sound Shop. Does anybody remember those? Okay. Had the big Tinker toy looking like trusses inside, and lots of records and tapes, and then went back to vinyls again at some point. But at any rate, it was there that I that was the part when I started working with retail architecture. So I had a little bit of residential, a little bit of commercial, hospitality, and now the retail folded in. So during the early 80s, the economy slowed down considerably, and development in general came to a screeching halt. I'm sure everybody remembers the good old 80s. And little did I know, though, that downturn could make such a big change in my career. For the first time since I began working at my firm, I was completely caught up. I had never been. I mean, we always had projects coming down the road, but at this point, it was like there was nothing. And I was like, I can't stand not to be busy. So I cleaned up, like I said, cleaned off everything. So I called Randy, my sound shop contact, and I said, Randy, would you possibly have a sound shop maybe I could get started on, maybe a step ahead, so that I could get just a little bit ahead and we can get it permitted really quickly for you when things turn around? And he replied, he said, no, he goes, I really don't have anything. But he said, have you ever done a hotel? And I was like, a hotel? And I said, no, but I said, but I'm a fast learner. It's the same process. I know I can do it. So the next week I was in Grand Cayman and working on this hotel. It was a 4-star hotel, 144 rooms. It had, and it was different than just doing a hotel too. It had a 4-star restaurant in it. It had a retail area, a nightclub. It had like I said, a 4-star restaurant. It had an open air. It was kind of copied after Kona Village in Hawaii. It also had like cisterns underneath the building. So we had a desalination process because we got all the water, lack of good water down there. A dive shop. It had 2 huge pools with a swim up bar. I mean, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is just amazing. So the next 3 years of my life was totally I was just engulfed with all of that. And that was really the turning point of my career in architecture. I mean, that was my big leap. That was when all of a sudden I was like, now I understand all this, because it all came together. And to top it all off, it was even further complicated because it was a British protectorate. The island was the Caymans. Everything, they had no natural materials or resources. So everything had to be brought in on container ships. Everything had to be quantity surveyed because it was under the British requirements, British prototypes and or British codes and all that. And then it was also, there was the whole Cayman political scene. And then also it was financed by a Canadian financial institution. So it was just crazy. I mean, I learned so much in those 3 years. I can't even tell you what it was, how exciting and fun it was. And then to make it even more fun, the minor participants in the financial commitment were like Larry Gatlin, Conway Twitty, Dave and Sugar, Helen Cornelius, Charlie Pride. So I got to meet all those people, and it was just so fun. It's really a really fun time. So like I said, what a ride, and it was a launch into my architectural career. So my next professional move was to partner with a civil engineer and start an architecture department from scratch. The company was design and engineering, and we were neighbors for a while with Michael. And in 2009, several projects crossed my desk at that time, but I just, at one point, I was just like, I had 26 employees, and it was a lot of I wasn't doing architecture anymore. So I decided that I was gonna like move on and be just get out of that whole part of that business. So I left, and then in 2019, of course, COVID hit. So I ended up just starting another little company. Just to be real quick, and I'll end up here because I know I'm running over time, but in the meantime, I have 2 daughters. They were born in 1980 and 84, Emily and Rachel. And of course, it was always a balancing act, like all us moms know, who were trying to work and raise a family at the same time, and dads too now. But we made it work. We managed to find time for dance lessons and swimming lessons and horse riding and sports and Girl Scouting and all those good things, lots of school programs. They both graduated from Father Ryan High School. Emily graduated from Murray State and lives in Richmond, Virginia, and works for an insurance company. And Rachel graduated from Middle Tennessee and Teton Science School, and she lives in Jackson, Wyoming. And she is working as well. Sometimes I really can't tell you what she does, but she's in Jackson. But I continue to enjoy spending time with the families whenever possible. And I love spoiling my grandkids, 3 grandsons and a step-granddaughter. I joined Rotary last fall, and to just wrap it up, I wanted to join something that I could give back my time, because finally, after raising the family and selling the company, I finally felt like it was, I had time to really be committed and do a good job and be a dedicated member. So last but not least, I would like to formally thank Beth Dormany for being my sponsor. She introduced me and invited me to join the club. She's wonderful and a thoughtful friend, and she is Lucy to me being Ethel. So thank you so much.
Colleen, thank you. In the interest of time, I think we're going to have Bob come back for a classification talk at a future date. But I do appreciate, Colleen, you sharing so much of your experiences prior to your time as a Rotarian. And a fun fact, Emily Atwood and my wife, Corey Rogers, she was known as Hicks at the time, grew up together. They rode horses together. So there's a deeper connection than just our time in Rotary. So thank you all for being here. I want to again welcome our guests, Drew, Sandra, Peggy, past District Governor Eddie. Thank you for being here, and thank you for presenting that award to Jeff Brown. If there's nothing else for the good of Rotary, Larry Kane, I'm sorry, 2 things. There are 2 things for the good of Rotary. Stack chairs in stacks of 8. Don't put them against the wall. Please stay to help put tables away if you're able. We need help. No meeting next week. Don't show up here. Got it? We're adjourned.